Meant to Be Well Summit is created by three incredible women, Ambreen, Valerie and Andrea. The main objective is to bring together experts from around the world to raise awareness about the importance of holistic well-being. This summit aims to explore the multidimensional aspects of well-being, including physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. This isn't just any event. It's a unique, global summit marathon designed to cover all time zones across the globe. We created this event because we genuinely care about you. We believe that everyone deserves to thrive and live a life of well-being. This summit isn't just about learning, it's about transforming your life. Our speakers are dedicated to inspire, uplift, and help you tap into your full potential. Join us, and let these world-class thought leaders guide you toward a higher level of mental, physical, and spiritual well-being.
Hello, thank you for joining again, and it's the second half of our summit, and this is the first session after the break. So thank you for joining again, that whoever is joining us. And this session is all about the human element in effective leadership. And I'm so honored to be joined by Mr. Lameen Abdul Malik. He is a Nobel Peace Prize winner, and he is on a mission to become a billionaire, and not in terms of money, but in terms of creating impact in the lives of the next decades. And when he actually got the, and he's like living with this, and when he got the money of like $200,000 with the Nobel Peace Prize, he actually dedicated to the Zambia's first cancer hospital. And so he is creating impact in every possible way. He's also a director of Think Tank Institute. He launched the global initiative in healthcare sustainability and AI. He also is a founder of Honest Management. And one thing that he is also passionate about is his coffee. So anyways, we're going to love the conversation, and we're going to talk about different things. So thank you so much for joining, Lameen.
Oh, my pleasure, Ambreen. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure.
Commendable to what you and your friends are doing on this. It's really commendable.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So we're going to discuss today the effective leadership and the importance of heart-centered leadership. You are leading in a way that is creating a big impact, and I'm sure that your leadership is coming from your heart. So just tell us a bit about it, that what is that heart-centered leadership is all about.
Okay, thanks a lot, Ambreen. I think, first of all, I wanted to just look at the origin of the word leadership.
Mm-hmm.
I did a little bit of research on this, and I was actually reading a book about leadership. And what was interesting is that the word actually comes from almost two languages, so Arabic and English.
Okay.
So I'll start with the Arabic first, because it's an older language in English. The word leader in Arabic connects to a word called a rope. So a rope is usually tied to something to bring it, to lead it somewhere. Back then, of course, being in the desert, the rope was used a lot for obviously tying to a camel. So like your sustainability, your way of sustenance, you had that rope. So the rope is basically seen as a word for leader. So basically, the first definition of a leadership is someone that has a rope that's leading something somewhere.
Okay.
The second definition comes from the English language, and it relates to ship. Usually you're on a ship going somewhere. So if we join the two words, basically the idea is that leadership relates to some kind of journey. Now we can probably discuss this later on, whether it's a personal journey or just a journey with a company or a journey in relationship. But it means that, leadership means that you're going on a journey and you're taking yourself or a group of individuals with you. And that means that the person who is a leader has to be sensitized to everybody they're leading, basically. So, a leader, one of the oldest definitions of leadership means someone that understands everybody's needs and is guiding them in the right direction. And one of the first or one of the oldest careers was actually a shepherd. A shepherd was the leader that was always leading their flock, making sure that the sheep got to where they were going, they were protected from any kind of wolves or anyone was trying to steal them. So I think when you talk about human-centered leadership, the idea is you need to connect that concept with the people that you're leading. And that's why I like the definition by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, where he said, on a journey, a leader is the servant of a people. So basically, a leader is a servant of the people. Even if you look at government, we talk about civil servants. The highest servant in the government is the prime minister or the president. That means that they're the number one servant of the people that they're leading. So I think, this wanted to just start off with that about the concept of origin of the word leader, how it relates to being human focused on who you're leading and make sure you take care of them and they trust you for you to basically meet their needs.
Yeah, amazing. I love the way you actually explain the term leadership from the different languages, like especially from the word Arabic the leadership in Arabic, and then especially in English, that like it's kind of a journey and where a leader is, helping people to follow him, to guide them into the direction. And at the end, it's actually basically serving people, right? So I know that there is usually when you are in the leadership position, you need to connect with your team and to understand them, and so only then you can actually lead them to the right direction. So, what do you think that how one, especially the leader, can connect with the team in a way that they know their team member in a right way?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is definitely the most precious of assets, which is basically time. That's the most important thing you actually cannot buy. It goes back to a discussion I heard. I'm sure everybody's seen this discussion where Warren Buffett is talking to Bill Gates, and Bill Gates has a very packed agenda, and they ask for Warren Buffett's basically calendar, and it's almost empty. He has like one meeting a day. And they contacted his PA and they said, is this true? Does Warren Buffett only have like one meeting a day? And they said, yes. And they asked Warren Buffett, why is this? And he said, I'm so rich that I can buy anything I want, but there's one thing I can't buy, and that's time. So the concept of time is that if you want to be a really sincere leader, you'd have to spend time with your team, whether you like it or not. If you want to understand everybody's needs, even if you allocate 5 to 10 minutes, sometimes some people think that's a bit of a burden, but I think if you're leading a group of people, you need to understand who they are. And I remember, and I'm not saying this is the perfect example, that when I was working in the UN, one of the things when I met new colleagues, I would spend, the first meeting at least 30 minutes. I'd already spend the last 5 minutes talking about work, but the first 25 minutes, I wanted to understand about them, where they came from. Did they come to Vienna with their families? Do they have any problems renting a property? How are they understanding how to shop in a foreign country? Just to understand who they are, what their challenges are as a human being before going into talking about work. And I felt that really paid me forward in a way, because that meant that starting that 30-minute relationship, it worked for me for many years, because it saved me a lot of time, because whenever I wanted something from them, I didn't have to have a meeting to talk to them about what I wanted, because I already built that relationship at the beginning of the relationship. I could just send them an email or call them and say, oh, can I please have this? And they'd be like, sure, we'll get this for you. But because just investing that time at the beginning, I think it's really, really important. So again, just to, keep it simple, like I think investing time in people, because it's such a precious asset, and showing that you respect them, you're willing to listen to them, I think is really, really valuable.
Wow. Yeah, that's an amazing tip, actually. Yeah, this is many people actually don't understand the value of time, and that's why they actually spend on a lot of things which are not needed. But what you actually highlighted here, that spending time in the right activities will actually pay back much better way. And that's what you did. Like, when we spend time in building a meaningful relationship, it will always help you. I think the only thing that can really pay back is the meaningful relationship, and that we develop over the period of time or over our lifetime journey. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, and so here, like, this thing which I actually got from your discussion at the moment, that like, when we spend time in connecting with people, one thing that is very important is listening to them in the right way. It's not just then being there, just listen to them like most of the people listen, but listen in a way to respond, not to
Exactly.
actually develop an understanding.
Yeah.
And the other thing is to develop an empathy. I think that also link with the listening. So
Yes.
I would like to ask that how we can actually develop or train ourselves to listen better and develop that empathy with others.
Yeah. So that's a really good question. So actually, last night I was actually listening to a very short interview by the US songwriter Pharrell Williams, and he
Yeah.
said something very important that I've been thinking about it actually since yesterday for about 24 hours. And
Okay.
he said that empathy is something that changes, and it's not something that's static. So just like you go through life through different changes, and every human being is different. That means that empathy is something that's always moving. It's not something you can have a definition that empathy means this. It means that for different people and different individuals, you need to have different empathy skills and different listening skills. So again, going back to what I talked about, building the trust. If you build that trust initially with your team members or in a relationship, then they will be more willing to share things that really matter with them. And of course, when they're sharing those things, then of course your task is definitely to listen to them. As you said, listening doesn't mean to share your opinion, because sometimes some people just want you to listen. They don't actually want you to give them any advice. They just want someone to listen to them. Sometimes we think that, if someone is sharing a problem, that they want me to give some advice. No, not necessarily. Not everybody is like that. That's what I mean. That empathy is something that is changeable, and it depends on who you're speaking to. So if you're really in tune with that person's personality, you have to have different listening tactics and skills for different people. So again, one of the things is that don't listen to share your opinion. Don't say and or but. Just say okay. If you haven't experienced what they're going through, just say I haven't experienced that. However, how does this feel to you? And usually, when someone explains how they feel, most human beings can relate to that feeling. I think that's an important part of listening in empathy. As we always say sometimes, that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, because you have to listen more than speak more.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to develop the right relationship, and we understand the true needs of the person. And as you rightly pointed out, that sometimes people don't even want an advice from you; they just want you to listen. And once, and it's very funny that sometimes when they share their problem or something, it's when you only listen to them, it may occur to them the right solution. It just occurred to them. It's not because sometimes when they verbalize, they start seeing their perspective or listening to their perspective in a different way, right? So when you just be there, accept them, it creates an opportunity to develop a meaningful relationship.
Yes.
I understand that it's important that especially in the normal personal lives, we have time, we can spend time on the other people to develop and build a relationship. But especially in the work environment, like when we are pressured with time, how we can develop that kind of relationship.
I mean, I did it in my work environment, where people would always come and share stories with me. I think obviously there's things like going on coffee breaks with your colleagues, where you can break the monotony of the day. Maybe they want to share something with you, not in the office or an office environment. They want to go somewhere else within the environment to discuss this. And I think sometimes if you see one of your colleagues in the corridor, you can just say, how was your evening? How's everything going? With your family or your child or your spouse, for example. How are your parents? And then it's up to them whether they want to share that. But at least you're asking, you're not just saying, oh, how's your day, with a blank kind of look on your face.
Yeah.
They kind of communicate that just tell me everything is okay. Don't share more information with me.
Yeah, that's it. But
And I
you
think
know what?
yeah,
Yeah,
I was going to say, I think some of it, a lot of it, a lot of communication comes from not even speaking. It's from your body language.
yes.
So, if you ask someone that question, you should actually really turn your whole body towards them. Not say like, oh, how are you? How's it going? You should say, you should look at them and say, how's it going? How's your day? And then, and have a more of a relaxed demeanor.
Yeah.
So like, you put your hands to the side, but don't hold your hands like this, like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It's actually not, it's communicating holistically, I would say, instead of just saying verbally that how are you, and just run away from them before they utter some other word that so that's a very good thing. But one thing that I just want to ask, that there are lots of especially at the workplace, there's a lot of stigma related to mental health also, and then a lot of people don't even open up. They want to present their best selves, especially in terms when they are in the workplace, especially when the boss is walking by. They don't want to share their depression, that how they're feeling, or maybe their internal battles at the family they could be having, right? Because they want to present their best selves. They are competent, they are very good, and they are reliable or something, when they cannot show their vulnerabilities. So how does a leader in that role, especially in the work environment, create that trust that when an employee open up very like authentically, or this open up directly?
I think again it goes back to one of your first questions. You talked about being human-centered. I was just trying to think of if I had an example in my life, my work experience, and actually I do have a really good example. I mean, it's many years ago, but I remember one of my assistants. She was like a leader in her community, and I thought everything was fine with her. But we always used to just talk, like, having small chats. And then one day she just broke down and said that the pressure of being a leader in her community was just too much. That she was actually just going to quit being a leader. Everybody in her community looked at her as a pivot. And I was actually a bit surprised, because she always seemed quite calm and collected. And I just said that, well, you have to take some time out for yourself and for your family. It's good to be a leader where everybody looks up to you. Everybody's coming to ask you about their problems and share solutions to solve their problems. But it was just too much for her. And then she said if she could take some time off. I said, of course. I mean, she took like a week or a couple of weeks off, and she gave up being a leader in her community for, I think, at least 2 to 3 years until she knew what she really wanted to do. So I think, again, I think if you become more human-centered, and you said that the greatest investment is in people. So, okay, yes, what were the sacrifices that I made? Yeah, maybe I lost an hour in my day at work. Maybe I had to work till 7. Okay, yes, maybe I got home late for my kids or my wife. Okay, she went away for a week to take some time off. Then I had someone else that was helping me. But I think sometimes you've got to take that sacrifice and try and put people first. And maybe a little bit of sacrifice on your behalf. Don't get me wrong. Not being an empathetic leader doesn't mean that everything is there's going to be no sacrifice. But I think you need to weigh the sacrifice and say, okay, what am I investing in this person that I work closely with? It's been an extra hour today. I always call my wife and say, I'm going to be a bit late because one of my colleagues had some issues, but I'm just going to make up that extra hour. Or I make up the extra hour the next day or something like that. But in terms of the value, rather than cracking under pressure and then they take 4 weeks or 2 months off because nobody was willing to listen to them, at least you give them that space where they could share that and they could take some time off to reflect.
Yeah, I think that's very important, that you need to realize, you need to find out that that the sacrifice you're making, how it will affect in future, right? And for leadership role, we need to actually make some sacrifices, but it depends. Like, again, we need to see that how the equation works, what it can, like, if we sacrifice this time, what will it bring us back to this?
Yeah.
There's a very interesting question here. So Chan is asking why you label yourself as coffeepreneur.
Oh,
Yeah.
coffeepreneur goes basically to, so one of my passions is coffee. I've been writing about coffee for about 18 years. And 14 years ago, I decided to leave the UN and actually moved to Cape Town to open my own coffee shop for about 3 years. I went back to the UN after that. So I still write about coffee. I've actually designed a course on developing an entrepreneur mindset using my experiences of running my cafe for 3 years. So coffeepreneur is basically someone that's merging their passion for coffee and being an entrepreneur at the same time.
Yeah, actually, that's interesting because entrepreneurship comes with like a lot of responsibility or something. Coffeepreneur is, it seems like a bit fun thing, right? It seems that something to link with the coffee or to relax or something. Because for me, like when you have a coffee, that means you're the time for yourself, relaxing yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, that's
Protecting your space, your mental space as well.
Yeah, it's all, especially like even when you think about the Starbucks, Starbucks is all about the experience. The experience is go there, right? So I think it's all especially in business or leadership, is all about the experience that you go. Or I would say even the life is all about experience. We are here to experience things, and that's what it is, even in the business or in the personal life, right?
Yeah,
So,
I mean, even in we're talking about empathy. So even in my online course, which I haven't filmed out yet, but I've written all the chapters. I do have a chapter that if you're going to become an entrepreneur, you have to develop effective leadership skills. And one of the key ones is actually empathy. So even in any business, you're going to be working with people, your staff, and also with your clients. So you definitely have to have empathy to make sure that you create some kind of conducive environment for people to be able to function. So that's covered in my course as well. But I call it soft skills. Yes.
Wow. So I didn't know that you have the course. You are planning to launch, right? It's not out yet.
No, it's not out yet. I was going to do it with the university. They were going to film me, but I think they had some issues. So I'm just looking for another way of filming it. But the course is basically written. The transcript has already been written. It's basically seven modules. Yeah, 7 modules.
Wow, 7 modules. It's going to be huge. And of course, coming from you, it must be. I think it's a must-take course. So that's great. Yeah. So yeah, one thing that I was just wanted to ask also about this, that like it's leadership is all about leading with authenticity, right? Leading with vision. And when we talk about authenticity, there's also come as a factor of the vulnerability, right? Because I think if you are vulnerable, that means because nobody's perfect. So if we are vulnerable, that means we are authentic. But again, when it comes to leadership, if you show your vulnerability, you're also seen as a weak. So how do you manage that balance of showing the vulnerability? So like, is it really important to show the vulnerability for the leader, or it's just a buzzword that be authentic, show vulnerability or something? How do you manage everything?
Very good question. And there's probably 2 ways to answer this. I think sometimes it depends, I think, on the culture. So if you look at different cultures, whether you're looking at a typical Western culture or typical Asian culture, what I've observed on African culture, for example, sometimes vulnerability is seen as a weakness because some people look as a leader to be almost perfect, which is obviously a dangerous way. I'm not sure whether that comes from classic definition of a leader or whether how a leader portrays who are themselves, which can be obviously very dangerous. So if you portray yourself as a leader that knows everything, that has a clear vision, knows exactly where they're going, and then you show vulnerability, people lose confidence in you. So that could be detrimental. But I think if you approach leadership from saying that concept of being a servant, being of service to them and saying, well, I'm just here, this is my idea, this is what I'm trying to do. I want to let you know from the beginning that I'm not perfect. I will make mistakes. And you you show them or give them the opportunity to say, I want you to show or share with me anything that you think can be done better, because sometimes I will get things wrong. I think if you have that kind of conversation with your team at the beginning and you show that, then that opens up the door for people to share their opinions with you. Or if you're in a meeting you should always go around and say, what do people think? This is what I think. What do people think? And of course, sometimes you need to, some people are always quiet. They don't want to share their opinion. But I think if one or two people are able to share their opinion and the leader says, yes, I think that's a good idea, let's try this idea out, then that encourages people to come up with ideas. We know from lots of different examples, whether it's in business or relationships, that people who have been open and vulnerable and accepted that they're not perfect, they've allowed their team to come up with ideas that actually saved the company, for example. Or asking your child about something and the child says, why don't we do this instead? And that child's idea helps the family to get better or progress in a different direction, for example, because they're different perspectives, and all you have is your own perspective. So I think sometimes it starts with you and how you want to show who you are. But if you go around saying that you're Superman or Superwoman and you know everything, that could be a bit dangerous, and your team will be reluctant. But if you start that conversation saying, I don't know anything, like Socrates famously said, the only thing I don't know is I don't know anything.
Yes.
And that's how one of the ways I approach relationships. When I was working in one of my positions and I was in charge of partnerships, that was my opening line to all the partners. I said, well, I don't know anything. You know everything. But how can we work together, basically? Because you're the expert. I'm just trying to create a relationship and a partnership with you. What is your weakness that I can help you with? But you're the expert. So I think it starts with how you want to approach the conversation at the beginning and just show that you're vulnerable, because sooner or later you will crack under pressure, because as I said, we're not all perfect.
I think this is such a good point that you brought up, that we need to, vulnerability is not mean that you're just showing that I don't know anything and this, but you're just saying that how we can help, and you can and showing that we are not perfect. That's the basic thing. It leads to the other question, especially when you are especially in the leadership, since we are talking about the leadership and human heart-centered leadership. How do you manage the difficult conversation, especially the poor, let's say, performance or the layoffs or something of the conflict, something? How do you address that in a way which doesn't sound really bad?
I think so. I'll give you a real life example. So when I had my coffee shop, I did have to lay off one person, sadly. Okay. And what I felt was that the dynamic of the team was changing, so that where people begin to get a little bit uncomfortable working with that person. And then, because you have one person that's affecting the whole vibe of everybody, affecting the customers, affecting the staff. So that means you've got to take a tough decision. But I always believe in giving people at least 2 or 3 chances. So when it happens the first time, you have to have that conversation as a leader. You can't get out of it. That's what leadership is about. You have to say, I've observed this. Is there something that is maybe in your personal life you want to share? I don't want to force people to share their personal life, because we don't like to share. Not everybody likes to share their personal life. So just say, is there something that you want to share with us that's affecting your mood? Because when you started working, you were excellent. You were always happy and joyful. But what's happened in the last few weeks? Yeah. And then when they say no, nothing. Okay. You say, well, I just want to let you know that this is how we're feeling, and can you please work on this? And then you give them 2 or 3 chances. I think on the 3rd chance, then you really need to say, well, it's not working, and I think for the best of the team, it's probably best that we leave, because it's affecting our performance. It's also affecting our clients. If our clients come and start complaining to us about an individual, then you need to take action. I think it's one of those things I think you have to take. But I believe that always give people a chance. So don't just say you're underperforming. Tomorrow not going to work. Give them 2 or 3 chances, and I think sometimes people appreciate that.
I think it has to be tackled very in a very nice in a tactful way, because a little bit difference, because sometimes very talented people can go through some setbacks in their lives, they're challenging times in their life, which can affect. And if you give them chance, and if you develop that kind of relationship or have that conversation, which can actually lead you to the right direction, but a wrong way of communicating them will actually ruin everything. So I think that's very nice way to actually put it, that, just have that conversation. And sometimes, and the best thing is, as you just said it in the beginning, that you have to have that conversation. You can't escape it. So if someone is not performing, so it's better, sooner the better. You need to have that conversation better. Okay,
Yes.
so one thing also, like nowadays, it's all about diversity and inclusion. It's very tricky thing, especially when it comes to the leadership, because although company and the people want company, or especially now the culture is, they want to build a culture where everybody is inclusive and they have been heard, but like people from the different background and not they are naturally, they do not gel very well with each other. So how do you maintain this dynamic in the team, where people from the different background comes and gel up very well and work with the in a way, like with the to in a way that actually helps you grow?
Yes, I guess I had the privilege of working in the UN. So when I worked in the UN, my department was the division for Africa. There's about 45, 50 people. There were the only nationality that had more than 4 people were French. And there were, I think it was five or six. So everybody was like 2 people from one country, 1 person from one country, for example. Like, for example, I'm half English, half Nigerian. There was no other British or Nigerian person in my department of 50 people. So you're always constantly working with people from multiple cultures, multiple faiths, multiple way of seeing the world. So obviously, one of the things you try and unite people on is the common goal. And I think one of my former colleagues, she actually did her MBA on this. And this was about 10, 12 years ago, before diversity and inclusion became a buzzword. She interviewed me for her MBA, actually. And I said to her that one of the things we have to understand is that everybody is different. Different cultures, different environments they've grown up in. Even someone from the same culture, they grew up in a different environment. And I think we need to respect that and not have everybody paint everybody with the same brush. Some people like to be active. Some people have been known for being more, outgoing in conversations. Some cultures are like that. We know some cultures that are very good at talking at every meeting, and some people are not. Obviously, how do you create a space where you want everybody to share their opinion? So sometimes it might work in a meeting with everybody, but sometimes you might have to have a separate meeting with a couple of individuals from the same culture to understand their opinion. Because in some meetings, people just won't talk because their culture does not encourage them to talk. But I think my take is that everybody is different, and you can't force everybody to participate in the way that a textbook or a rule book says you should participate. It's not going to work. And I think we should really celebrate that we're all different. We have different cultures, and you have to find a way how to get everybody involved as well.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and especially if I look at it, that some cultures, there are something that some, like you said, that there are people from the different faith, different culture. So sometimes in some culture there is something very normal, but the other culture may take it as offending, which is also a very tricky part. That they may be saying, they may be doing things in a very in a normal way, but the other person may take it very offending. So how do you actually manage that kind of balance with your team? The other person, like, the people who are from different faith, different culture, they have sincere intentions, but they don't offend each other.
Yes. Yeah. I think, as a leader, then you have to make sure you manage those conversations, and you have to be very alert and attuned with different cultures, and understand that, in some cultures, maybe a man is always used to talking down to a woman, but in an office space, he can't do that.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that if anything like that happens in a meeting, that you also obviously call that person to the side and mention that to them and say, no, this is not like, okay, again, I had the privilege of working in the UN. So the UN is a completely different environment, almost like a bubble. So you can say, well, it's an international organization. We work with many cultures. We have many people we work with within the team, outside the team. And that's not how we work. That's not how we work here. You can't bring that kind of cultural mindset into this space. So it's up to you as a leader to basically, I think, manage that situation and explain that. So these are kind of this difficult conversations you have to have, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, that's true. Like, I mean, talking about managing the relationship and with the people and your emotions also. So what do you think that, especially the role of emotional intelligence?
Yes.
Can you put some light on it? That what is the role of emotional intelligence and how like leaders can use emotional intelligence to lead better?
Yeah. No, again, it goes back to what we talked about at the beginning in terms of being in tune with your team. And also, I think managing emotional intelligence also links very closely to empathy, because sometimes people are going through something and you might just use a brush and say, oh, that person is acting like that because they're from this part of the world. Not necessarily. Mm-hmm. Again, it means that you need to take a bit of time. You need to maybe call that individual in and say, I noticed you've been acting A, B, C, and D like this. Do you want to share anything with me on this or not? And then maybe give them time. Say, okay, I don't want to talk about that now, but maybe next week, let's have a 30-minute talk on this. Let's have a discussion about how we can manage what's going on, for example. I think as a leader, I think it's not just about where the company is going. It's really about making sure that your team, which I always believe that the team is the most important. I think even Richard Branson said that if you don't treat your team well, they will treat your customers badly, and that will affect your business in the end.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And like for me, always like, especially emotional intelligence is not only managing our emotion, but also managing the emotions of others. And I think it's very important. It has become very important, especially when you're managing some conflict or trying to address. Hello, sorry. You're saying something?
Hello?
Yeah, I think so. Can you hear? But I'm not muted. You can't hear? Something.
No, my thing's gone off.
Oh.
My camera's not working.
Yeah, it's anyways, it's but we can hear.
I said, can you put the light on, please? My volume is gone off.
So
the thing's just frozen.
No problem. It's
seriously.
It was working very properly, but I think we couldn't hear you, and now we can actually. Oh, I think it's technical glitches can happen anytime, so we need to be prepared and we need to be ready, especially when we are doing these kind of virtual events. It can happen anytime. Anyways, it was almost the end of the session, and we almost spent the 38 minutes already. So it was just the last 1 minute. I wanted to ask him that what maybe the one advice he would like to give to the audience today, or maybe the best way to reach out to him. So I think it's rather than asking him, I can just tell you that the best way to reach out to him is his website called Honest Management. He is the founder of that, and the other thing is that you can also connect with Lameen on LinkedIn on Lameen Abdul Malik. And that's, I think, easily available on that. He's very active on LinkedIn. That's how I got to know him, and he's such an amazing human being that we met in 2020, I guess, or 2021. And he's always there, and his content is also very inspiring, and he's always very helpful from there. So I think I just lost him. Let me see that if he wants to share the last word. Otherwise, I'm just going to close this session because we are already on time. We have finished our time. You'll just see. Let me see. Okay, so I think I'll see you in 10 minutes with the next session. So please join in after 10 minutes. See you. Bye.